Today's lesson, we're going to focus on some equations of lines. We're going to focus on x equals a number, y equals a number, and standard form. So let's go ahead and get started. Graphing x equals some number, and I'm just using the number symbol because it could literally be any number. It could be a 0, it could be 7, negative 7,000, 4/5. It doesn't matter. X equals some number. X equaling a number is always going to be a vertical line, meaning it's going to be parallel to the y-axis. So if you're unsure, x is horizontal, y is vertical. X is horizontal, y is vertical. To graph this, all you're going to do, x equals -3. You go to the x-axis and you plot -3. 1, 2, 3. Once you plot -3, you're going to go ahead and just draw a vertical line. And in reflections, we actually reflected shapes over those lines. In this case, we're just graphing it. So anytime you have x equals a number, you go on the x-axis to the point and draw a vertical line. It should, it should be parallel to the y-axis. Graphing y equals a number is very similar, only instead of going to the x-axis, we're going to go to the y. So y equals a number is horizontal. Y equals 2, the first thing you're going to do is go to the y-axis, go up to 2, and graph your line. Anytime it's y equals a number, it will always be horizontal, and it will be parallel to the x-axis. All right, standard form. Standard form is ax plus by equals c. It's kind of like the form we focused on in slope-intercept form when it's solving for y. To graph something in standard form, it's all about the intercepts. So what that means is you need to solve for the x-intercept and the y-intercept. When it's an x-intercept, that's where the line crosses the x-axis. So the location of the point is a number, and then there's a 0 for y. So it's a number, comma, 0. If it's a y-intercept, that means it's a 0 in the x position and a number in the y position. All you have to do is substitute 0 and 0 2 different times. So x-intercept, that is when the y value is 0. So what that means is if I plug in 0 here, 5x plus 10 times 0 equals 20. 10 times 0 is just 0, so it now becomes 5x equals 20. I'm going to divide both sides by 5. 20 divided by 5 is 4. Now, you don't have to show this step. You can always just go ahead and cover up the y value. So if you're solving for an x-intercept, cover up y because it's going to cancel anyway. So 5x equals 20. Let's try that shortcut on the y-intercept. So if it's a y-intercept, that is when x is 0. So if I look up here, if I plug a 0 in for x, 5 times 0 is 0. So if I just cover it up, I'm left with 10y equals 20. Dividing both sides by 10, I get y to equal 2. All you're going to do from here is now graph them. X-intercepts are on the x-axis. So the x-axis is here. I'm going to go over to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm not going to draw a vertical line like we just did. We also now need to graph the y-intercept. So if it's a y-intercept, you go on the y-axis up to 1, 2. You now have 2 points to create your line, so all you're going to do is go ahead and connect, and you're done. So before we end this video, let's just review types of slope. This is something you've covered in Algebra 1, but it's also a topic that is very important to geometry. So a positive slope, that is when the fraction reduces to a positive number. And those numbers are here increasing, so it's going up. Negative slope is when it goes down. A 0 slope is when y equals a number. So on the y-axis, if I plot this line, that slope is considered 0. If you're calculating slope, a 0 slope is when the change in y is nothing. Notice how we're not going up or down any in the y direction. And your x value is a number. So if you're actually solving for slope, if you get a 0 in the numerator, it's going to be a slope of 0. As far as undefined lines go, undefined lines are vertical lines. That's when x equals a number. As far as calculating slope, the change in y over change in x, undefined is when you try to divide by 0, meaning I'm going up and down in the y direction, but my x direction is never changing, so it's a 0. We can't divide by 0. That's when you get your calculator and it gives you that error. It doesn't work. That's because you're trying to divide by a 0. If you're having trouble remembering the difference between 0 and undefined, because for the most part we're good with positive, negative, we can kind of see that it's going up or see that it's going down. When it comes to 0 versus undefined, we get a little iffy. So looking at this piece, the z, hopefully we all know what a z looks like. You can turn this into looking like a z for 0. And you can try to make this look like a U to help you remember undefined. So that's the best kind of trick that I have to help you know 0 versus undefined. 0, think horizontal, it kind of looks like the start of a Z. Undefined is vertical, and it looks like the end of the U.